Welcome to Unsuitable on Ray Radio, the award-winning financial services and business advisory podcast that challenges your old-school business practices and the traditional business suit culture. Our guests are industry professionals and experts who will challenge you to think beyond the suit and tie while offering you meaningful modern solutions to help you enhance your company's growth. I'm your host, Dave Kane.
The workplace can be a dangerous place, and without the right training, education, policies, and procedures in place, you could be looking at workplace injuries, citations, fines, and damaged reputations. Today's guest is well-versed when it comes to protecting companies and people from ensuring that common safety compliance measures have been implemented and managed to teaching employees the combat objective battle-ready applications self-defense system for personal protection in the workplace. Wayne Burley does it all. A trainer with MHS WorkSafe, Wayne brings more than 20 years of HR and work safety experience to his role, as well as 36 years of experience in defensive tactics instruction. He has a master's degree in fitness management from the United States Sports Academy. He was inducted into the United States Keto Federation Black Belt Hall of Fame. This guy means business. And on today's show, he's going to talk about what he's doing to protect both employers and their employees. Welcome to Unsuitable, Wayne.
Thanks for having me.
Great. You know, I think in the history of Unsuitable on Ray Radio, we've done about 185 episodes. You're the first Hall of Famer we've had on the show. Congratulations.
Oh, thank you.
When did you jump into the Hall of Fame?
It was just about a year ago this month.
Congratulations. And what were some of the attributes to get you elected into the Hall?
Well, I was nominated for outstanding contributions to the martial arts. And I guess if you've had a career that spanned 35, 36 years, at some point in time you get recognized for that. So I went out to Omaha, Nebraska and received the award there.
Fantastic. And we'll talk a little bit more about that self-defense training, but I want to talk about some of the things that you do at MHS WorkSafe. Tell me a little bit at first about where's MHS WorkSafe located? Where are you guys located at?
We're located in Yorksville, Ohio.
Okay.
I'm the managing partner of MHS WorkSafe, and we're a division of MHS, Material Handling Specialist.
Okay.
Material handling specialists. They do everything from selling and working on lift trucks, pallet jacks, racking, anything material handling. And I head up the training division. Great.
I want to talk about you guys work with clients in three areas regarding OSHA: compliance, consistency, and sustainability. And I don't know if we shared off mic a couple stories, but Ray and Associates, the manufacturing segment, construction segment are two of our largest practice areas. In fact, on the manufacturing front, we probably have more than 400 different clients in various industries of that area. So a lot listeners in that space to this program. So some of our discussion regarding OSHA will be very pertinent to our listeners. Let's talk about OSHA. What's that organization? How do they manage the workplace? And you're going to help us navigate that.
Yeah, OSHA has been in existence, a federal program, since 1970. But a lot of companies, even today, especially we specialize in companies of around 150 or less employees. And they just don't have the resources. Oftentimes, they don't understand what the regulations are. There's about 18,000 regulations in the 1910 standard. So the Code of Federal Regulations, just like any other federal agency, it's very cumbersome. So what we do in terms of compliance, we help companies understand what you need to have done in your workplace in terms of training, who in your workplace needs it, how often do they need it, that type of thing. And then we help them to be consistent in that with policies, procedures. Oftentimes your practices and your policies don't match up. So if you say you're doing something, you need to be doing it, and we help coordinate that. And then we put the company on a path to sustainability. You have to be able to sustain those programs.
So if I have a manufacturing or construction industry, and we'll use those two industries, we would basically hire your company to, come out, talk to us, do some training, some ongoing training. It's not like, hey, come in, once every 5 years. We need to see you frequently because stuff is changing.
Right. I have clients that I have on retainer. Once a month I'm on their site, whether we're doing a safety audit or doing safety training. It all starts with a hazard assessment, and the hazard assessment is going to take us down the path of helping them understand what their personal protective equipment needs are, whether they need, for instance, lockout, tagout training, as well as standard procedures, standard operating procedures.
We like to tell stories on unsuitable. Can you, again, change the name to protect the innocent, if that's the case, but can you share some stories about some industrial accidents you've been involved in and maybe step back and say, hey, if you guys would have had that training, this may not have happened? Is there anything that comes to mind you can share with our listeners?
I could share some experiences where a company, by not putting in the effort up front, the pain of doing things correctly up front far exceeds the pain of not doing things and on the backside. And one company in particular that I've worked with, they had 2 injuries. They were hand injuries. One was a hand crush. The other one was an amputation of a finger. And in both cases, both employees, they recovered, but those 2 injuries are at the tune of $1.8 million for that company and counting. So if you would have put the measures in place, machine guarding, lockout tagout procedures, they would have been that far ahead. And backing away from severe injuries, if I go into a facility and the fire extinguisher is blocked or it hasn't been inspected in the last month, if an OSHA compliance officer comes in and finds that, it's a $12,471 fine.
So this isn't parking ticket type money. This is big boy money.
Big boy money. And if they have 10 of those fire extinguishers, multiply that number by 10. So.
Yeah. Vixer, get the calculator. Let's see what we got there. OSHA, do they just have a tendency, can they show up at any given moment?
They can show up, and the way they do that is they'll show up on site and they'll ask to see a training record for maybe your forklift 3-year research. And if the company doesn't have and cannot produce those records, then it's going to open up an inspection.
You'd mentioned in one of the stories $1.8 million of fines and penalties. It would seem to me that might be one on the low side, because that was certainly an injury. What if there would have been a loss of life? What are some of the fines and penalties you're seeing there?
Well, it's kind of across, if there is a death, sometimes there could be a death, and the actual penalties are quite low. It just depends on, did the company do up front what they needed to do? Did they provide training for individuals? Do they have the records of that training? Because accidents do happen in the workplace, irregardless of how well a company implements their program. They could have an injury, or they could have a death. So OSHA's going to come in and they're going to look at what was your training, where's the records, are you in compliance with the frequency of that training, and that's going to dictate a lot of where they go from there.
Sure. At MHS WorkSafe, one of the things in my notes, you guys offer a workplace safety audit.
Yes, we will go in and do the audit, and typically, depending on the size of the company, again, we're normally working with companies up to 150 employees.
Okay.
That audit's going to take around an hour and a half, and then there's going to be a report on the backside. But that's going to give us a lot of information, and it's going to take us to the training needs, and we're going to find the gaps. It's essentially a gap analysis.
So you're looking for job hazard and do the assessments and things like that.
Yes, it starts with that job hazard assessment, which is that safety walk through that audit. And in many companies, they go about things in reverse. They'll either have something happen and then they call us in, or
After the fact, yeah.
they want to go down a path and they're just going down and spending more money than they would need to if they would just have the assessment done up front.
We talked about the three areas, compliance, consistency, and sustainability on the OSHA compliance. Talk about the pain of the policies versus not doing. What about understanding? I want to kind of understand the cost of hesitation. What if I'm not totally into this? What if my industry is pretty, has a clean record, my company has a clean record? I'm kind of hesitant to go forward. What advice would you have for me?
Well, there is a cost to hesitation, and if something does happen. I was just at a client this week doing a shelter-in-place training, and one of the employees had been there for 48 years, and I asked him, have you ever had a tornado? He goes, well, no, but we did have one of the walls blow in one year. And so I said, well, you had an event, but you just didn't have the injury. And the cost of hesitation is, it's kind of a victim mentality, if you will. It's not going to happen to me. If it does happen to me, it's not going to be that bad. And companies need to get out of the victim mentality, and they need to understand that things can happen, things do happen. So you have to have a plan, and you need to implement that, and don't hesitate to spend a few dollars up front to save thousands of dollars on the back end.
This is just a guess on my part, but the fact that your firm works with your niche area is companies with 150 employees and less, and there's some smaller ones certainly in there. But, the owners, the CEO, those guys are a lot of front line. They're involved in the whirlwind, may be involved in the manufacturing process. Probably an area they overlook. Is that maybe an area you're seeing?
Yeah, sometimes they'll overlook, the safety. A lot of times as a company grows, they do not bring the ancillary programs with it. A lot of people have to wear many hats. You don't have the resources. And I've been told actually along those lines where, hey, you're the safety guy, you're the guy we never think of, but you're the guy we need the most. And I actually had a plant manager tell me that.
Workplace violence. Every month, every week, we read something going on and out there, part of violence. And I know you guys also do some, workplace violence training, some self-defense, and you have this thing we had talked about in the opening about combat objective battle ready application, also known as COBRA.
Yes, and workplace violence is, you have 18 times more chance of being killed in the workplace by violence than you do in a fire at the workplace. Because again, historically we had fires, people died, and today we do the training, we do the drills, we do all those things. Workplace violence is not an OSHA standard, but it falls under what they call the general duty clause. So it's kind of the catch-all. If it's not covered here, it's covered there. So COBRA, I'm licensed through COBRA International out of Florida. I'm one of 150 instructors worldwide that's actually licensed to the COBRA brand. And the combat objective battle ready application, the key there is battle ready application. So what we do is we work with individuals, groups, and corporations on personal safety and corporate safety. And it's not a martial arts program. Many of us are martial arts, we have martial arts backgrounds, but less than 2%, about 3%, 2% of the adult population seeks out personal safety. So what we do is the battle ready application, when you take a course or a program through us, whether it's team building, whether it's an active shooter response training, or it could just be a ladies' night out. We have about 11 different programs. Our newest program called CAP, it's Child Abduction Prevention. It was developed in Australia. I'm the second person in the United States to actually teach that program to a group of kids. And it concentrates solely on anti-abduction, and it's a 2-hour program. So when a person leaves one of our programs, no matter what it is, they're going to have applicable techniques available to them to use when they walk out the door. Way different than a martial arts program that might take years to develop those same skill sets.
I want to go back to that, but in preparation for today's discussion, I went on your website, and there's a lot of cool things on your website regarding, the Cobra, and some pretty interesting stuff on there. Can you share your website with our listeners? I think they would enjoy going on there and maybe click on here in a few minutes when we do a self-defense demonstration. But what's your website?
My website is cobradefensecanton.com. My website mirrors the corporate website out of Florida, so cobradefensecanton.com. You'll find a lot of, like I said, really good information on there.
Active shooter response. We're hearing that more and more in the workplace, in our schools, and that's an area that you do also train.
Yeah, we do training. There's a 15-point checklist, if you will, that we go through if we're going to develop a plan for a company. And it's just another emergency response plan. It's like shelter in place, evacuation. You have hurricane plans. Well, a lot of companies don't have a plan because it's a horrific event if it does happen. They don't want to acknowledge that, hey, this could possibly happen. So, but yes, it's a program that we will come in and help develop a plan for a company, where we actually do training, where we take people through reality-based scenarios. We get their adrenaline pumping, and we help them to be able to function under that kind of stress.
So you're seeing more and more companies looking at that as far as part of their training. Here at Rain Associates, we have training in software, CRM, marketing, automation, how to use the telephone. I think we know where to go if there's a tornado, but we don't have any that I know of, any training for active shooter response.
And at this time of year with the tax season and everything, you could have a person walk in and they may not be happy.
Well, you had to bring that up, didn't you? What do you think of that new tax act that went into effect? Did that impact your business much?
It didn't impact my business personally that much,
but you heard enough of it, yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, but that's interesting. Bixler, get that on the schedule, would you? There, let's see what we can do. A lot of companies, when they have that, is that mandatory training?
It is for some companies. I've worked with manufacturing facilities, a lot of churches.
Yeah.
Soft targets. And then the other thing is companies that have wellness initiatives, like the well-being of employees. Employees have a life outside of the company.
Right.
And when you're at the restaurant, the movie theater, the airport, the church, we give you a path, and we empower the individual to take action. And that's a difference.
Off mic, you and I talked about some of the violence that has occurred with some of the rideshare programs. And certainly that's awareness. You talked about whether it's a guy's night out or ladies' night out, there's always a danger lurking. And I think what your organization does is try to help our employees and your clients respond to that the best they can.
Yeah, Cobra, we're real big on social media, and already there's been information put out through corporate on Uber drivers and whatnot, what to look for, what to expect, what they should be asking you, and whatnot.
So there is that kind of, training it's safety training.
It's safety training. We have a lot of resources. We have an online college, so everything we teach is backed up on video. So at corporate, everything we teach is going to be on an online college.
Have you ever done a Cobra training demonstration or self-defense demonstration on a podcast?
I have not.
I don't know that it's ever been tried before in the history of podcasting. You want to be a first? You want to try it?
Let's do it.
We'll see if we can find somebody out in the hallway to come in.
Okay.
And you can demonstrate what you're doing. We have you on YouTube, so we can look at that, and I'll try to describe the activity to our listening audience. So
Okay.
let me see if we can get. Oh, here comes a guy. He's our head of our production, Brad Cercone. Is coming ahead. So Brad has just stepped to the front of the room, and
Look at that. That's perfect.
we'll see if we can describe this. We'll get the YouTube going now. Wayne Burley is going to do a demonstration, a self-defense demonstration. What do we got going here?
Well, let's just do something simple. We're going to have, Brad, we're going to have you just put your hand on my chest. So one of the things, if somebody puts their hand on you, I want to, what we want to...
Hands on chest.
I want to anchor. So if I trap here and I...
Oh boy.
So there's the move. And then maybe I just take one finger and I...
Oh boy.
So that would be an easy technique. So.
Listen, the finger bent way back. I was voting for a little more bend there, but how'd that feel, Brad?
It still works.
It still works. So okay, that's one move. Let's what do we got next? You got something else?
We talk about if say somebody would grab your wrist, they're going to pull you. And maybe I don't want to be pulled, so I've come to here and just bring the Brad.
Then Brad goes through. Yeah. All right. So
I think this is a wrap.
One more.
yeah, there was a wrist turn. Now let me just try to describe this. What if Brad? What if you're walking down the street and somebody sneaks up from behind? Wayne, I'm sure you have a couple demonstrations.
Yeah,
So
well, we could have maybe Brad put his.
yeah.
It's just like he's going to choke me this way.
Yes.
So
Okay, Brad
I
is
do this all
joking.
the time.
Brad is
Usually
Brad is joking.
illegal.
Guys, you got to
This is
see
what I
this.
do.
Go on YouTube.
So what we want to do here, we want to get our hooks into Brad, and I'm just going to, so he can't choke me, I want him to try to bring his arm back up. So this gives me, the time, and then maybe we, do
Oh yeah. Beautiful.
And Brad has
That does it.
Brad
That
has
does it.
tears coming down his face. So
that
Wayne, that was
good.
pretty good.
was
How's
good.
that feel? And
It hurt.
Our techniques are designed to be simple, they have to be effective, and of course, you can make them as devastating as you need to.
That's the word I might use.
devastated. You were devastated. So again, our guest has been Wayne Burley from MHS WorkSafe in Cobra Training, and Wayne is from Uricksville, Ohio. Check out his website. Thanks again for joining us today, Wayne.
Thank you, thanks for having me.
Employers certainly have a variety of reasons to want to bring somebody like you into their business, and there's so many what-ifs out there. And through MHS WorkSafe and Cobra, you're doing a lot to make business a little safer. Thanks for sharing what you can do for our listeners.
Thank you.
And Brad's arm is now in a sling and a neck brace, so it works. By the way, listeners, if you haven't liked or shared this episode, go ahead. I'll wait about 5 seconds so you can make that determination. Go ahead, like it. Finally, don't forget to subscribe to Unsuitable on Ray Radio on iTunes or YouTube. Until next time, I'm Dave Kane, encouraging you to loosen up your tie and think outside the box.
Yeah.